In the high-stakes world of executive leadership, information is your most valuable asset. Robert Greene's third law of power states, "Conceal your intentions." He argues that if you keep people off balance and in the dark, they cannot prepare a defense. To the modern professional, this sounds like standard corporate strategy, informational asymmetry. But to the believer, this law skirts a dangerous edge. The ninth commandment strictly forbids bearing false witness. We are commanded to be people of truth. But where is the line between sinful deception and strategic discretion? Is withholding the truth the same as a lie? Today, we are looking at the most controversial corporate strategy of all. Did the survival of the early church rely on espionage? And did Christ himself use the law of concealment to orchestrate the cross? Let the debate begin.
You tell your employees that transparency is a virtue, but in the boardroom, total transparency is corporate suicide. If you reveal your hand, you lose your leverage, and whether you admit it or not, the foundational story of your faith relied on this exact deception. Let's look at the wise men. King Herod, the ultimate regional executive, called the Magi in for a meeting. He gave them a directive. Go and search carefully for the child, and when you have found him, bring me word. They nodded. They agreed. But what did they do? They slipped out of the country by another route. They breached a verbal contract. They deceived a sitting king. If they had operated with total transparency, the child would have been assassinated. Christ's very existence was preserved by a strategic lie.
You confuse a moral obligation with a tyrant's manipulation. You claim the Magi lied, but you fail to understand how a wise steward operates when the intelligence changes. The Magi didn't set out to deceive Herod. They set out to worship a king. But God warned them in a dream of Herod's true, murderous intentions. When the risk profile of a situation fundamentally shifts, a good executive pivots. The ninth commandment states, "Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor." It is a law designed to protect the innocent from perjury and slander. It is not a mandate to provide full operational transparency to a hostile competitor seeking to commit murder. Discretion is not deception. The Magi didn't lie. They simply revoked Herod's access to their data.
Revoked access to data. A clever rebrand for lying by omission. But let's look at your heroes. Look at Queen Esther. She was placed in the highest courts of the Persian Empire. Did she boldly declare her identity? No. Mordecai instructed her to conceal her Jewish heritage. She lived a double life. She used informational silence as a weapon to outmaneuver Haman. And let us look at the Master himself. In John chapter 7, Jesus' own brothers told him to go to Judea and show himself to the world. They wanted a public PR campaign. Jesus looked them in the eye, told them he wasn't going to the festival, and then as soon as they left, he went up in secret. He concealed his intentions. He operated in the shadows. He used law number 3 perfectly.
You fail to distinguish between deceit and timing. Jesus did not go in secret because he was afraid of the Pharisees. He went in secret because, as he stated, "My time has not yet fully come." Timing is a strategic asset. You do not launch a product before the infrastructure is ready. As for Esther, she did not lie about her heritage. She simply held her identity in a strategic reserve. You assume that being honest requires broadcasting every detail of your life to your enemies. But Jesus himself taught the ultimate law of operational security. Do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing. You do not owe your adversaries your operational roadmap. There is a massive difference between bearing false witness to destroy someone and practicing silence to protect a divine objective.
a divine objective. Let's talk about the ultimate objective, the crucifixion. For centuries, the Old Testament prophets painted the Messiah as a lamb led to the slaughter. Christ repeatedly told his inner circle that he was going to die and resurrect. That was the master plan. But when he was arrested, when he was put on trial before the Sanhedrin and Pilate, what did he do? He offered no defense. He gave no warnings. He didn't explain the grand plan of salvation to the Pharisees. If he had told them that killing him would actually break the power of sin forever, they never would have crucified him. Instead, he stayed silent. He let them think they were winning. He manipulated the legal system, used their own political greed against them, and leveraged omission to ensure his own execution. Your savior didn't just survive by concealment. He won the ultimate victory by keeping his enemies completely in the dark.
You look at the silence of the Lamb and call it manipulation. You are blind to the sovereignty of the King. Christ did not lie to the Sanhedrin, nor did he conceal the truth from Pilate. He simply refused to validate an illegitimate court with an explanation they had already rejected. He didn't hide the prospectus from them. For 3 years he performed miracles in the open. He cleared their temples. He told them explicitly, "Destroy this temple, and in 3 days I will raise it up." The data was public. The intentions were broadcasted. The Pharisees weren't kept in the dark. They chose to close their eyes to the light. You claim he used the law to his own advantage. No, he submitted to the law to fulfill a higher covenant. When Pilate asked, "Are you the king of the Jews?" Jesus didn't use deception. He looked the Roman Empire in the face and said, "You have said so." When you stand in total authority, you do not need to over-explain your strategy to people committed to misunderstanding you. Christ's silence on trial was not a Machiavellian tactic to trick the devil. It was the absolute, unshakable confidence of a CEO who knows the contract has already been signed in his favor.
Machiavelli argues that total transparency is a myth, and that even the biblical narrative relies on espionage, omitted truths, and concealed intentions to survive hostile environments. The maker argues that holding your strategic reserve is not deception, and that true power lies in knowing when to speak and when to let your enemies defeat themselves with their own ignorance. Where do you draw the line in your career? Do you owe everyone your operational roadmap, or is tactical silence a requirement for senior leadership? Vote in the community poll right now. Tell me where you stand in the comments below, and I will see you in the next boardroom debate.